Do you sleep next to someone but feel alone? Do you live with a person but feel like you're losing your identity? Do you speak but don't feel heard? If you just felt that feeling of loneliness, a tightness in your heart, or even a strange sensation, well, you might be sharing your life with a narcissist. There are 5 signs that never lie, and ignoring them can cost your sanity, your well-being. And it doesn't stop there. Have you ever looked in the mirror and not recognized the person staring back? Have you ever felt like you became a stranger in your own life? Have you ever noticed that all your friends have drifted away and now you only have this person? This isn't coincidence. This isn't a difficult phase in the relationship. This isn't all in your head. Carl Jung discovered that there's a very specific pattern that happens when you share your intimate life with a narcissist, a pattern that slowly kills your soul in such a subtle way that you don't even notice. Your intuition always knew something was wrong. That constant feeling that you're walking on eggshells, that you're never doing anything right, that you've lost your own voice. These are symptoms that you're being systematically destroyed from within. Carl Jung identified something that will shock you. Narcissists who live with their victims are the most dangerous because they operate through what he called domestic narcissism. It's a form of abuse so subtle and constant that the victim completely loses reference of what's normal and healthy. Unlike the narcissist you encounter occasionally, the narcissist you live with has 24-hour access to your mind, your emotions, your energy. They can shape your reality in a way that you don't even realize you're being manipulated. It's like living in a prison where you've been convinced you're free. Jung observed that victims of domestic narcissism develop what he called amnesia of their own identity. They literally forget who they were before the relationship, what their dreams were, their tastes, their opinions. It's as if the narcissist's personality was swallowing theirs. But Jung discovered something hopeful. There are 5 signs that always appear in this situation. Signs that never lie, that always reveal the truth. And when you recognize these signs, you finally have the confirmation your soul has been screaming for so long. Now I'm going to reveal the 5 signs that Carl Jung identified as undeniable proof that you're living with a narcissist. If you recognize 3 or more of these signs, you have your answer. The answer that part of you already knew, but didn't have the courage to admit. Knowing the truth is scary, but it's also the first step to freedom, because you can't fight an enemy you can't see, and you can't protect yourself from something you can't name. Prepare yourself to finally understand what's happening to you. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important. If you're seeking courage to face a difficult truth, you're not alone. Thousands of people here have discovered that their intuition was always right. They found strength to see reality, and more importantly, to act on it. Here you'll find a community of people who understand exactly what you're going through. People who came out the other side stronger and freer. If you want to be part of this community of brave people, subscribe to the channel. Because facing the truth is the most courageous act there is, and you're braver than you imagine. The first sign Jung identified is what he called progressive dissolution of personality. This happens when you gradually lose your own identity bit by bit, without even realizing it. Do you remember who you were before this person entered your life? Do you remember your dreams, your plans, the things that made you happy? If you're having trouble remembering, it's because your personality has been systematically erased. Narcissists do this very subtly. They start by questioning your tastes. Do you really like this? Then your opinions. Are you sure you think that way? Then your emotions. You're not really feeling this. And gradually, you stop trusting your own perceptions. Jung observed that this happens because narcissists can't accept that you're a separate person with your own desires. To them, you exist only as an extension of them, to serve the needs of their fragile ego. The result is that you look in the mirror and no longer recognize who's there. You no longer know what you like, what you want, what you feel. It's as if you've become a shadow of who you used to be. If you're recognizing yourself in this, if you feel like you've lost yourself, this is the first sign. Your identity is being systematically destroyed by someone who should love and celebrate who you are. The second sign is what Jung called emotional responsibility inversion. This happens when everything always becomes your fault, even when it clearly isn't. Have you noticed how, whenever there's a conflict, you end up being the villain of the story? How no matter what happens, you always end up apologizing? How your feelings are always overreaction, and their feelings are always valid? Narcissists are masters at distorting reality. They can take a situation where they clearly made a mistake and somehow make you believe it's your fault. If you hadn't provoked me, you forced me to react this way. You know how I get when I'm upset. Jung discovered this happens through a technique he called systematic gaslighting. The narcissist constantly questions your memory, your perceptions, your feelings, until you start doubting your own sanity. The result is that you live in a reality where you're always to blame, always the problematic one, always the one who needs to change. You wake up every day feeling like you're doing something wrong, but you don't know exactly what. If you always feel guilty, if you're always apologizing for things you didn't do, if you live with the feeling that you can never do anything right, this is the second sign. Your perception of reality is being systematically distorted. The third sign is what Jung identified as calculated isolation from support network. This happens when you're gradually separated from all the people who could give you an external perspective on the situation. Think about it. Where are your friends from before? Where is your family? Why don't you talk anymore to the people who used to know you well? Narcissists do this very strategically because they know that isolation is power. They start by planting seeds of discord. Your friend said something about you that bothered me. I think your family doesn't accept me. Did you notice how so-and-so acts weird when I'm around? Gradually, they create friction between you and the people who love you. Then comes the phase of jealousy disguised as love. Why do you need to go out so much with your friends? I don't understand why you call your mother so much. I thought you preferred spending time with me. And you, wanting to please, start distancing yourself from everyone. Jung observed that narcissists do this because they know external people can see what's happening. Your friends and family can notice that you've changed, that you're not the same person anymore. And this is dangerous for the narcissist's control. The result is that you end up in a bubble where you only have their worldview. You no longer have anyone to give you perspective, to remind you of who you were, to validate that what you're feeling is real. If you look around and realize you're alone, that all the important people in your life have drifted away, this is the third sign. You've been systematically isolated from your support network. The fourth sign is what Jung called vital energy drainage. This happens when you feel constantly exhausted, even without doing anything physically tiring. Have you ever woken up more tired than when you went to sleep? Have you ever felt like your energy was being sucked by a black hole? Have you ever had the feeling that no matter how much you sleep or rest, it's never enough? Jung discovered that narcissists are emotional vampires in the most literal sense of the word. They feed on other people's emotional energy because they can't generate their own satisfaction. And when you live with one, this drainage is constant. They do this by creating constant emotional drama. There's always a crisis, always something to resolve, always a reason for you to worry about them. They suck your attention, your energy, your peace of mind 24 hours a day. But the worst part is they never give you energy back. In healthy relationships, there's exchange. Sometimes you give support, sometimes you receive. With narcissists, you always give and never receive anything genuine in return. Jung observed that victims of domestic narcissism frequently develop physical symptoms of emotional exhaustion, insomnia, headaches, digestive problems, chronic fatigue. It's the body screaming that vital energy is being drained. If you live in a state of constant exhaustion, if you feel your energy is being sucked away, if you never feel emotionally nourished, this is the fourth sign. You're being systematically drained by an emotional vampire. The fifth and most dangerous sign is what Jung called control through the language of love. This happens when everything that limits your freedom is justified as care or protection. I do this because I love you. It's for your own good. I'm protecting you. You know I only want the best for you. Only, how many times have you heard these phrases? And how many times were they used to convince you to do something you didn't want to? Narcissists are masters at using the language of love to exercise total control. They transform possession into protection, jealousy into care, control into love. And because they use these beautiful words, you end up believing it really is love. Jung identified that this is particularly perverse because it completely confuses the victim about what real love is. You start associating love with restriction, with loss of freedom, with having to ask permission to live your own life. The result is that you live in a prison disguised as a loving relationship. You can't go out with friends because he gets worried. You can't make decisions alone because he wants to help you. You can't have privacy because you don't have secrets. But true love never restricts. True love celebrates your individuality, encourages your dreams, respects your autonomy. True love makes you feel freer, not less free. If your life is full of restrictions justified as love, if you always have to ask permission for basic things, if protection has become prison, this is the fifth sign. You're being controlled through the language of love. If you recognize 3 or more of these signs, Carl Jung would confirm without hesitation, you're living with a narcissist. It's not your imagination. It's not a difficult phase. It's not a communication problem. It's systematic psychological abuse. And here's the most important part Jung always emphasized. It's not your fault. You didn't attract this. You don't deserve this. You didn't do anything to justify being treated this way. Narcissists choose empathetic, caring people with big hearts precisely because they know these people will tolerate the intolerable out of love. Your intuition was always right. That feeling that something was wrong, that knot in your stomach, that inner voice that said, this isn't normal. It never lied to you. You always knew, even when they tried to convince you otherwise. Jung said that recognizing the truth is the first step to freedom. It's not the easiest step, but it's the most important one, because you can't change a situation you can't name, and you can't protect yourself from something you can't identify. Now you know. Now you have a name for what you're living through, and this, however scary it may be, gives you power. Because knowledge is power, truth is power, and you're stronger than you imagine. Now that you've confirmed what your soul already knew, I'm going to teach you some techniques Carl Jung developed to start protecting yourself, even while still in the situation. First technique, silent documentation. Start writing down situations where you recognize these 5 signs. Not to confront, but to validate your own experience. Gaslighting only works when you doubt your memory. When you have everything written down, it's harder to distort your reality. Second technique, gradual reconnection. Start re-establishing contact with people who knew you before. A message here, a phone call there. You don't need to explain everything at once. You just need to start rebuilding your support network. Third technique, personal rediscovery. Every day, do one small thing that reminds you of who you were before. Listen to music you liked. Read about a subject that interested you. Do an activity that gave you pleasure. Your identity is still there, just dormant. Fourth technique, energetic protection. Learn to create internal emotional barriers. When the person tries to drain you, imagine a protective bubble around you. You can be physically present, but your energy is protected. Jung always said that healing begins from the inside out. You need to first recover your own strength, your own identity, your own sanity. Then you can think about bigger steps. If you've made it this far, you've already taken the hardest step. You've faced the truth. This requires immense courage, and you should be proud of yourself for that. In the comments, tell me, only if you feel safe, which of these 5 signs impacted you most? You don't need to give details, but knowing that other people went through the same thing can give you strength, and your courage can give strength to someone else too. Remember, you're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You're not alone. Your experience is real and valid, and you deserve so much more than what you're receiving. If you want to continue this journey of self-discovery and protection, watch the next video I'll leave here on the side. How Carl Jung teaches you to leave a narcissistic relationship safely. Your life can be different. You can be free. You can be happy. And this isn't a dream. It's your right. Never give up on yourself. Thank you for trusting me with your pain. Until the next video.